And now we have Steve Turnberger of Sports Update coming up. Now, Steve Turnberger was called by the News Journal on Monday's evening paper our likably brash news reporter, and he's here to give us an update on what's happening sports-wise. And Steve, I wanted to ask you about that debacle at Delaware last week. I'll tell you, as a diehard Delaware fan, it really hurts. Why do we always seem to be flat for that game?
Choke time. 4 out of the last 5 years, the Hens have lost to Delaware, or the Hens have lost to Lehigh. And of course, last year, same thing happened. They had a 20-13 lead up in Bethlehem, and Larry Mikowski came back and crushed them on the touchdown passes. Same thing happened down at Delaware Stadium last week. They lost their number 1 ranking in the country, and it was a good shot for the Hens to go 11-0 this year, and they can still go 10-1. But how they cannot beat Lehigh, I can't figure it out. Tubby Raymond, of course, can't figure it out either. The Hens have lost 4 out of the last 5 years to Lehigh, and last week they had a 14-0 lead in the second quarter. Rick Scully went 47 yards with a touchdown run. He had a concussion midway through the ballgame. Came back late in the third quarter. Of course, he was groggy. If that affected his play, nobody's really sure about that. But the Hens go 3-1 on the season, and this week they'll have another tough game against the University of Massachusetts down at Delaware Stadium in Newark, 1:30 p.m. kickoff. And of course, remember last year up in Amherst, Massachusetts, the Hens were lucky to pull out a 21-17 victory in the last 30 seconds of play up in Massachusetts. They returned 18 out of their 22 starters from last year, and they had the number 1 ranked 1AA defense last year. So the Hens will have their hands full. If they can bounce back from a tough loss to Lehigh last week, that will be the key factor. Remember, last year the Hens lost to Lehigh away 27-20. Came home against Northern Michigan. They were the flattest game they ever played that year, and they lost to Northern Michigan, of course, dropping their record to 3-2 last year. Hopefully that will not happen this Saturday down at Delaware, 1:30 p.m. kickoff. Get down there and see some great action. Maury Jorman still in trouble in the backfield. He has a hamstring pull. He is not likely to suit up on Saturday. The backs have been injured all week. Valentino and Eddie Braceland are still suffering from the flu. It's going around the club all week long. They are in trouble. Hopefully they can pull out a big win this week against Massachusetts. Moving downstate, the Hornets of Del State. Can you believe it? They're 0-5 on the season. Joe Persicki and company, they plan to be at least 3-2 at this point. Look out for Joe Persicki. He will come around sometime this year. They have Howard this week in Alumni Stadium down at Dover, 1:30 p.m. kickoff. If you can get down and see the Hornets play, it'll be a good opportunity. They could win this ball game against a Howard club that is 2-1 on the year. Delaware State 0-5. And a side note, Pancho Tiberi, formerly of William Penn High School, the most valuable player in the 1981 Blue Gold All-Star Game, he will be attending Delaware State coming up in the spring. He will play spring ball down there and then have 4 years of eligibility left as he will try to play football for Delaware State and join his big buddies down there, Dave D'Angelo and, of course, Franz Koppel. And Franz is starting on that offensive line for Delaware State Hornets. Moving to high school football, Salesianum, still your number 1 team in the state. As we take a look at this week's installment of the Sports Update Top 10, the Sallies are 3-0 on the year. Vic Bowen, Stevie Jerome, they have one of the best backfield tandems in the state of Delaware. They are said to be the powerhouse in Delaware. And if we compare a couple games, Salesianum 2 weeks ago knocked off Concord 61-6. And last week, your third-rated team there, Glasgow, which is 4-0 in the season, they barely got by Concord. Final score there, 28-20, as they scored in the last seconds of play. Seaford blew out Caesarati last week down in Seaford, beat the Riders for the first time since 1972. Ron Dickerson has possibly his greatest club ever. They are off to a great start at 3-0. Glasgow, as we said, is 4-0. Jimmy Pletcher going for his 100th win this weekend in Delaware. That will be a big ball game for the Dragons. Number 4, Newark. Butch Simpson has a great club again. They knocked off Del Castle last week. I believe you're seeing footage from that ball game right now. Final score there, 24-20. The Jackets are 3-0 in the season, and Keith Wright scored 4 touchdowns in that ball game. William Penn, 3-1 on the year. They have a big contest against the number 6 club, Dickinson. That will be at William Penn, 1:30 p.m. kickoff. If you get a chance, get out there and see some great football. Cape Henlopen, they came out of nowhere. Last week, they beat Dover 14-12. Jimmy Alderman is back and strong. Your 8 club, Archmere, they are 3-1 on the season. Bill Doyle looking for his 3rd straight Division II championship. And the Cougars, they're hanging in 2-1 on the year. They remain number 9. They lost last week to Newark 24-20. Jack Hoops has a good club. They'll try to get it cranked up again against Brandywine this weekend. And number 10, St. Andrews, that's not a mistake. St. Andrews is 2-0 on the year, our number 10 team in the state, and hopefully they can go a long way in independent conference play. And there's our high school top 10. And Bob, moments from now, the Phillies get ready up in Montreal. They're in a lot of trouble.
Yes, they are, and their backs were against the wall last year. Maybe they can pull it off this year. We'll have to wait and see.
Steve Carlton, last night, they needed that game. Dick Ruthin will go tonight. If they can't win the ball game tonight, look out. They'll be 2 down coming home, but we know they can win 3 and fill if they have to.
That's right. Well, now for some short messages, and we're back with more Focus Delaware.